Hey, all right, it's the country. My name's Justin Weller. Thanks so much for tuning in. You know, it's hard to build a following from scratch, and I'm brand new at it. We just started a couple months ago. Would you consider becoming a subscriber? Just head on over to thecountry.news. If you want to be a paid subscriber, it's just $5 a month or $49.99 per year. You can also be a free subscriber and get access to all sorts of things. The paid version gets you access to all of the archives. Either way, we really appreciate your support. Go ahead and share this. Go ahead and follow us wherever you're listening or watching. We really appreciate your support. On to the show. Well, here we go. Good evening, and thanks for joining the Country Podcast. My name's Justin Weller. After a hiatus for the holidays, we have a lot to catch up on. We'll discover how Santa got his start as a shamanic priest who drank reindeer urine to get high on magic mushrooms, why the 2024 presidential general election begins Thursday night. But we're going to begin tonight with a message of thanks. We were off for the Thanksgiving holiday, as I said, so it falls to this episode for our message of thanks. We should, of course, first thank the Lord and all the stars and all of the other things in the universe which conspire to allow us to exist in this moment. Unless, of course, we all conspire unknowingly to create them, in which case we are still in their debt for this wonderful experience we have that we call life. So we give thanks for that. And second, we must thank our family. Those people who helped to make us. They literally made us. And shelter us, and clothe and feed us, and support and love us, and also put up with our bullshit more than anyone else. The love of family is the strongest love, through thick and thin, until death do us part, if we're really lucky. So we have to give thanks for that. And you know, the truth is, we seldom consider what an amazingly fantastical privilege it is to exist in this time and at this place, whatever time and place might be. As I write this sentence that I wrote a few weeks ago, I am currently sitting in my amazing home next to my amazing wife watching an amazing program called Planet Earth 3. You should check it out. And realizing that all of the humans who have ever lived, my wife and I and all of us, are the 0.0000001% who have the opportunity to watch such majesty from our omniscient, godlike perch. And there are a million things in modern life that would similarly appear like heaven to billions of ancestors before us. To borrow from Shakespeare, 'tis an existence devoutly to be wished. So we give thanks for that. And finally, in our message of thanks, we must thank all of you. We took a leap of faith 3 months ago and some change to try and add to the discourse, to try to describe the political world and the broader society as it is, and hopefully convince some of you folks to take a closer look at what's happening with a skeptic's eye. Sometimes I like to think of the country and what I'm trying to do here as a political my cousin Vinny. You know, with Joe Pesci and Ralph Macchio. But Vinny was the guy who had a talent for seeing through magician's tricks. By the way, he's definitely palming it. So we give thanks for that. It has been a fun journey so far, and we're just getting started. Thanks so much for reading and for listening here. It means the world to me. To continue on the holiday theme, the most wonderful time of the year. It is a strange thing, though. You see, in 1971, 90% of Americans, when polled, said they were Christian. 50 years later, that figure was down to 69%, so a 21% drop, with a corresponding rise from 4% to 21% reporting absolutely no religious affiliation at all, either agnostic or atheist, I would assume. But as of 2021, only 47%, even though 69% of them say they're Christians, only 49% of them actually report belonging to any religious organization. In other words, they don't go to church. And they don't belong to a church. In fact, only 29% report, and this is not just Christians, but any religion, report attending religious services weekly. 29%. The march to a secularized society has been a major trend over the last 50 years, and yet, according to the Pew Research, 90% of Americans celebrate Christmas. 90%. What is it that they are celebrating? Well, let's think about it. Humans have celebrated the winter solstice since the beginning of documented history and likely for millennia before that. Ancient societies were completely dependent on nature for survival. Completely. And the winter solstice was the most important waypost in the cycle of life and death, which are the seasons. Many cultures celebrated the winter solstice as the last great feast before the death of winter punished them with starvation and famine until they could start to grow some food in the spring. In fact, most livestock that were owned by these folks were slaughtered at this time, as there would not be enough food over the winter to feed those animals. Most fermentation processes, of course, you'd take the summer's crop and you'd do different things with them, including ferment some of it, were complete by the winter solstice. So the combination of fresh meat, bunch of fresh meat, we've got to eat it up, and hey, here's the first spirits of the winter provided for a grand feast. The solstice was also a time of celebration as the sun god's journey to death ended and he was reborn, slowly lengthening the daylight towards life. The Neolithic sites at Stonehenge in England and Newgrange in Ireland are both oriented towards the sun on the day of the winter solstice. They line up perfectly. In East Asia, the solstice has been celebrated for millennia, demonstrated by the Dongzhi festival, which began with the Zhou dynasty of China sometime before 256 BC. In India, the Makara Sankranti is celebrated by Hindus to mark the sun's transit into Capricorn, and thus the beginning of longer days. It is a holy day, quote, with Hindus performing customs such as bathing in holy rivers, giving alms and donations, praying to deities, and doing other holy deeds. Yalda Night was one of the holy nights in ancient Iran, included in the official calendar of the ancient Iranians from 502 BC during the time of Darius I. The festivities that take place on this night are an ancient tradition. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia for centuries, with a sacrifice at the temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum and a public banquet followed by private gift-giving, continual partying, and a carnival atmosphere that overturned Roman social norms. Later, Sol Invictus, literally the sun returned, was the preferred religion for many Romans. This is about 200-300 AD. Emperor Aurelian declared the Sol religion official and dedicated a new temple on, you guessed it, December 25th, 274 AD. Now you may say, hey, Justin, that's 250 years after the birth of Christ. But many scholars believe the date of the 25th of December was chosen to celebrate Jesus' birth by the Catholic Church in an effort to subsume the very popular sun-worshipping competition of Sol Invictus, and that was done the next century, in the 4th century, in the 300s. So yeah. In Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule in recognition of the return of the sun. Men would bring together huge logs which were burned for the entirety of the festival, usually about 12 days. That's interesting. In Germany, the Yule was celebrated similarly with the addition of the appearance of Odin, a god who made nocturnal flights through the sky at night to determine by observation who would prosper or perish in the coming year. Are you naughty or nice? But the strangest similarity to Christmas's imagery and traditions, including Santa, come from the shamanic religions of the Arctic and Northern Asia. You won't believe the parallels. In the ancestral communities of the Arctic, the winter solstice, which occurs on December 21st, was a ceremonial and festive date. Rituals were conducted that were guided by shamans who collected the Amanita muscaria. It's a mushroom. It's one of the magic mushrooms. It's also called fly agaric, which has powerful hallucinogenic properties. Yes, the most magic of mushrooms, the Amanita muscaria, also called the fly agaric, were the centerpiece of the ceremonial celebration. This is the red and white mushroom that is found under pine trees throughout the Arctic to this day. Pine trees, red and white. Okay? It goes on. These are the first Christmas presents under the Christmas tree. You would recognize this mushroom. It's the one from the Mario Brothers series. It's literally taken right from there. The white mushroom with the red top and white dots. Okay? Around the solstice, the local shamans and priests would gather the muscaria to seek religious visions. The rituals would include feeding these mushrooms to reindeer. These shamans, viewed reindeer as a spirit animal. So they've got reindeer. We've got the Christmas tree. We've got red and white. We've got reindeer. And they're highly toxic. Okay? So they would hang these mushrooms in stockings over a fire. So there's your stockings hung by the chimney with care. Both processes reduce the toxicity of the mushrooms. So they would feed them to reindeer or smoke them and dry them out over a fire, so that the shamans could ingest these mushrooms and experience visions of sugar plums, perhaps, but they did include a journey flying all over the land. So here we have a shaman. They dressed in red and white. You look it up. Arctic shamans, Amanita muscaria. Go ahead and Google that and check out the pictures of people that look like they're wearing Santa costumes, except it's thousands of years older. Once the shamans had completed their journey, they entered the yurt of the tribes. The yurt is just a big sort of teepee-like structure. They entered through the chimney because by this time in the Arctic, snow is so thick, the doors are snowed in. So you would get in and out of your yurt through a chimney. Here comes the shaman through the chimney. And what does he do? He shares the gifts of the visions delivered by the Amanita muscaria and the reindeer. It's usually a prediction of what's going to happen in the next year. I bet you wouldn't have guessed that Santa got to start as a pagan priest getting high on magic mushrooms by drinking reindeer urine. But here we are. As you can imagine, over time, these disparate celebrations, especially in Europe, Northern Asia, and much of the Middle East and North Africa, were combined, assimilated, borrowed, and then largely forgotten as Christianity took over during the Roman period and after in the Middle Ages. But it was still a very European holiday. In America, Christian Puritans who founded Boston in the 1600s outlawed Christmas as a decadent, sinful holiday, also noting that the date is never mentioned in the Bible. The date was picked, again, like I said, sometime in the 300s, in the 4th century, by the Roman Catholic Church. After the American Revolution, most Americans viewed Christmas as an English tradition and therefore did not wish to celebrate it. In fact, Christmas, it was celebrated some places and others not, right? But in fact, Christmas was not a federal holiday in America until it was declared so on June 26th, 1870. It was done by former general and then President Ulysses S. Grant, who, after the Civil War, was looking for ways to bring the country together, if you will. So he and Congress declared a number of holidays, including Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, and the 4th of July. Today, Christmas has taken on a life of its own, outside the remembrance of the birth of Christ. According to the World Economic Forum, Americans spend over $1 trillion on Christmas. The average American will spend approximately $1,000 just on Christmas presents. And the overall cost of the celebratory day is about $1,500 per person when you take in all the parties and food and drinks and decorations and all those things. The average American spends 15 hours shopping for Christmas presents, and 22% report they spend money they don't have to provide presents. We built an entire culture around Christmas that has nothing to do with Christ. This includes Black Friday and Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday. We've got football games to watch, holiday parties to attend with office mates, friends, neighbors, and family. We've got Christmas concerts. We've got Christmas shows and other traditions to review. We have tree lighting ceremonies, tree decorating parties, the Rockettes, Charlie Brown and the Heat Miser, elves on shelves, gingerbread houses, nutcracker sweets, and countdowns to Christmas. You have that little calendar thing where you count down the days. We have ugly sweaters, candy canes, and milk and cookies for Santa. We have eggnog, wreaths, and Christmas cards, department store Santas, and horrible tasting cookies with frosting on them. But why do we do it all? For me, the first answer is tradition. Humans crave ritual. and the comfort of familiarity. We've celebrated this holiday our whole lives and share a number of fond memories. It is a time to pause work, gather with loved ones, and create the memories that last a lifetime. I think, second, the best parts of the Christmas season are full of hope and wishes for peace and joy. We need so much more of this and less of the third reason. Perhaps the most influential reason is money, the presents. One of my favorite parts of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, the one with Jim Carrey. I don't like the newer one. But he's like, I finally figured out what this is all about. Gifts. Gifts. Now, in the end, they prove him wrong. But this is something that I think we really need to worry about. The presents. The first question after the holiday is almost always not, how was your Christmas? But instead, what did you get? Christmas is a huge boost to the economy every year, and marketing, advertising, and major corporations make every effort to make it so. One wonders when Santa will be brought to you by Amazon on a sleigh-like drone. Instead, let us focus on the spirit of Christmas, even if we are those who no longer believe. Let us find the special moments with our loved ones, and let us pause to thank whatever deity we believe in now for the gifts of our very existence. Even the worst of us have so much to be thankful for, and the rest of us would be challenged to say we deserve the blessings we've been gifted. Let us seek out ways to share our gratitude and love our fellow humans and realize that we are all in this together, as always. I just saw Jamie Dimon, who, you would never expect a message like this from the CEO of a bank. He's the CEO of JP Morgan. But he said, these people who are religious, this is about abortion, these people who are religious and think that life begins at conception, they're not bad people. We need to stop demonizing each other. And that's our message for the Christmas spirit. May peace and joy break out across the land this Christmas season. War is over if you want it. And our final story tonight is about tomorrow night's debate. On Thursday, November 30th, the first debate of the 2024 general election will take place between two politicians. The two politicians, in my opinion, most likely to be nominated for president by the respective parties. And this is tomorrow night. Sean Hannity of Fox News will host a debate between Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. What about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Justin? Not forgotten, just dismissed. And, I think the fact that Trump hasn't shown up for a debate yet and Biden has refused to engage in a campaign with first RFK Jr., who was running for the nomination and left because of the way he was treated by the Democrat Party, and Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips, who the fact they will not have debates. I think Joe Biden and Donald Trump really don't deserve our votes. So that's just one reason to dismiss them, is their actions, their behavior in this campaign season. But nonetheless, I do not believe either one of the two will end up as their party's nominee, let alone president on January 20th, 2025. I first tweeted in May that I did not believe that Joe Biden would be the Democratic nominee, and I wrote in August that the many reasons why, including his age and clear mental frailty, the dissonance of Bidenomics, which obfuscates these price hikes that continue to punish everyday Americans, weak fecklessness abroad, and heating up corruption charges. I've always believed that at some point, perhaps as late as the Democratic National Convention in August 2024, Biden will drop out of the 2024 race. Not quit as president, right? But just drop out of running for re-election. President Johnson style. This happened, Johnson was the president, and in March, I think it's 31st of 68, so that would be 5 months from now in our cycle, just said, I'm not running. Okay? And I think Biden's going to do this too. Again, I think it might be in August. And name his replacement. Now, you will say then, well, what about Kamala Harris? I think she's such a weak candidate. The hardest part will be replacing her with Gavin Newsom as the choice for nominee. And if you've been watching Gavin Newsom over the past, year and a half, Both he and the media have been running him for president. Okay? And I think they're going to replace her with Gavin Newsom as the choice for nominee. Perhaps they will orchestrate some drama, maybe an 11th hour. They have like 20 votes at the convention, and finally it's like, let's just unify behind Newsom. I would imagine they've worked out a payoff for Harris, whether it's a cushy job or she gets to continue as vice president or something along those lines. But obviously I don't have any information about that. It remains to be seen. The lateness of such a move would ensure that the national press and others have little time between the convention and the start of early voting to vet Newsom and his disastrous record everywhere he's governed, including as mayor of San Francisco. If you watch California over the last few years, you cannot imagine that he would do anything positive for the United States. It's a disaster. He should be taken out of office, not given a higher one. As for Trump, I've also written how he has disqualified and disgraced himself, which is saying a lot for him. He's an egomaniac. They don't feel disgrace, but he should. His handling of COVID, his weak response to violence on January 6th, and his unwillingness to concede and hand over power with dignity have shown his true colors, as if we needed more information on that. Not to mention that every person that has ever worked for Trump who is not a sycophant hates him. The executive branch is too large for one person to manage and lead, and he will not be able to attract the voluminous number of quality people needed to turn this country around. He's a great marketer in the sense he can persuade many that the sky is orange, but he is no leader and he is no governor. I do not believe any serious person on the right who reviews the record of Ron DeSantis would vote for Trump instead. And yet the polls, Justin, the polls. This is the silly season of the presidential race, folks. Polls come out every day and the pundits react, while these polls mean nothing in terms of the 2024 election. In early December 2004, Howard Dean led in all national polls against John Kerry. 4 years later, at the same point, Hillary Clinton led Barack Obama by 20 points. And Rudy Giuliani was the front runner for the Republicans. In 2012, Newt Gingrich was the Republican leader at this point as well. So, they don't mean anything. In fact, based upon the reporting that Matt Taibbi did in some of those races, those early ones in 04, I can't remember if he covered 08, but he definitely covered 04. And my own speculation, I believe the polls at this point really indicate who the establishment wants to win the race as much as anything else. They're the only people really paying attention. They're the only people donating for the most part. And many of them are commissioning these polls. Polls can be manipulated, and they are often wrong. One can manipulate the questions asked and the person's polled to have polling say whatever the pollster and their sponsor want the poll to say within a margin. The donor class and the mainstream media have become very accustomed to pressing a thumb on the scales of the nomination process, and in many cases, they determine the outcome, even overturning the votes of the people in primaries. Go to thecountry.news and you can read an article about that. It's in part about RFK as well and his break from the independent to an independent because of the way the Democratic Party handles their primaries. So it's called RFK for President, I think. For whatever reason, right now, the establishment wants a Biden-Trump rematch, perhaps because they know Biden would probably defeat Trump again. Let's all face it. Trump got lucky with a highly disaffected electorate in 2016 that would have voted in just about anyone as compared to an establishment hack like Hillary Clinton. I think I would have won the presidency. I think you would have won the presidency. I don't think it had as much to do with Trump as we all think it did. And he's helped the Republicans lose every election since. To nominate him again would be suicide for the party. But honestly, the elites in both parties don't suffer those consequences. They just make uniparty deals to keep the status quo going. They're doing great. So if you're following me this far and don't disagree, you must regard the upcoming Thursday night debate as very important. It is a chance for DeSantis to show his stuff one-on-one with a Biden proxy who, let's face it, is 10 times more capable in a debate than the doddering president. It's also a chance for him, Mr. Newsom, Governor Newsom, to draw a stark contrast from the old man's decline. A way to get voters in his party to put more pressure on Biden to hand the reins over now. I must admit to you, dear listener, that much of this is hopeful speculation. While I despise Governor Newsom's policy in California and his terribly elitist handling of COVID, remember how you weren't allowed to go anywhere or do anything in California and some of the other blue states, and then he was caught having dinner with his friend, actually with lobbyists at the French Laundry, one of the greatest, most fabulous restaurants, I'm told, in the nation. Do you remember that? That's the sort of guy he is, okay? But I will tell you, too, he is charming. He is very articulate. He is made for television. He's handsome, tall. Like, there will be women, a good portion of women, and look, I don't blame them, but that will vote for him just because of the way he looks and talks. He will give any Republican the fight of their life for the presidency. And Governor DeSantis is almost exactly the opposite to Governor Newsom. He's a gifted governor and decisive leader who may be the least charming presidential candidate since Richard Nixon. It will be a debate, and I hope a race. I really do hope that this race becomes Newsom versus DeSantis, and the faster the better, because everybody wins. But it will be a debate and potentially a race of style versus substance, of sizzle against steak. Regardless, the quality of candidates, the quality of debate, and the quality of the political discussions across our great country will be an order of magnitude higher when both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are no longer a part of it. Trump has so much baggage, all we talk about is all the stupid things that he does and says. Biden is so old and out of touch that all we talk about is, can he stand up and deliver a speech? We don't get to the issues. We talk about these silly things. These guys carry too much baggage and need to both step aside or be forced out for the good of the country. So every person who cares about the future of this country should be rooting for these two men to open a substantive dialogue about our future. Please, regardless of what you think of Fox News, what you think of Governor Newsom, what you think of Governor DeSantis, or what you think of Sean Hannity. I'm not a fan at all. I won't say it. Regardless of what you think of all those entities and all those people, you need to tune in Thursday night. Your country is counting on you. So, that's the view from the country today. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Hey, all right. Thanks for listening to The Country. If you like what we're doing, we're just starting out and we're trying to build a following to make this work. If you like this podcast, would you please subscribe? Maybe share it with a couple friends. Heck, even post it on social media. What could be the harm? We'd really appreciate your help, and we really thank you for your support. As always, please go to thecountry.news and subscribe there as well. Thanks so much. See you.